Hi, Lonnie.
Hi, Amy. I'm glad to have a chance to talk to you this afternoon.
Me too.
I we had we had been talking about you had mentioned something that was going on at school, and I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that today if you got some time.
Yes, I'd really appreciate that. Our school, our district, but in particularly our school, has been really looking closely at data. And we've always had district-wide assessments, but we've also added other layers of data. For example, we're implementing reading fluency assessments, which only track pace, and we've implemented a math probe targeting number sense, and this is through K3. And this all comes as our school is beginning to implement RTI, response to intervention. And this model has different intervention levels for students. So if a child's math score is not at benchmark, then they might get pooled for 30 minutes 3 times a week, and they'll work on isolated skills using a canned program. Um, and because of this, it's happening sooner than later. I'm sorry about that, but we'll be told when to teach math and when to teach reading. And they will be common times for these subject areas. So, for example, they might say, well, Amy, between 10 and 11, you're teaching math every day. And the problem that I have with this is actually the rigid schedule. Um, and I shared with my principal that when I think of math, I don't necessarily think of it as from 10 to 11, but I think of how it can be embedded into other things, into projects, into things that students are interested in across the curriculum. And I see it as a problem because I really and truly believe that students do much better and they have a greater capacity to learn when they are learning things that are meaningful and are relevant to what they are actually doing.
Amy, that's from your story. It really seems like you find your students learn so much more effectively when you've provided a context that's relevant to them. You shared that with your principal because I can sense your concern about your school's journey into RTI. I'm wondering, have you got a story of how you've embedded those concepts into your curriculum and how your students reacted to that? How did you view their learning?
Well, actually, the students were involved in a project in which they created an innovation. Um,
Oh,
and one of the activities that they had to do was they had to figure out how much their innovation or product actually cost. So they completed a cost analysis spreadsheet, and that's where the group determined the cost of the different donated items that were used to make their innovation. So a piece of cardboard would be less than 15 cents. And if they had a big piece of cardboard, it might be a little bit more than 15 cents. And maybe a roll of duct tape would cost about $1. So they figured out an estimated cost for each of the items that went to make their innovation. And then they also learned what the average hourly wage of a laborer was. And then from there, they had to figure out how much it would cost them with labor and materials to make one product. And then the students were able to talk to an owner of a marketing firm, and that they learned about markup, and so they marked up their product about 30%. Um, they used that information to figure out how much they should sell their product for. And then they had an innovation expo with their peers and their grade level to determine what innovations those people would actually buy. So when that was all said and done, one of my students said, well, how much did our class make? And I thought, wow, that is a really big question. So we brainstormed little questions that they could use to answer that bigger question. We had the head of the business office in our district come and talk to us about what could be taxed, and we used a tax calculator to find out how much tax would be paid after materials and labor was taken out of their total, gross income.
mm-hmm.
They also blogged their understanding. So in all of that, they worked on problem solving, they worked on money, fractions and percents, addition and subtraction, and all of those were incorporated into the actual context of the lesson.
Really, really enjoying your story about that really creative innovation project and your kids learning. And from your description, this kind of real world process, I'm guessing you're really excited at how learning progressed. And I'm wondering how you might have shared those successes with others, or if you did. And was your principal, did, has your principal been aware of the district person who visited your classroom?
Well, it was super exciting, and it still is even to think about it. The students shared their learning publicly on their blogs, and we shared our understanding with the person from the business office. And the principal was aware that this was going on, but I don't think he was fully aware of what the students were able to accomplish. Um, we did, however, invite the principal into the classroom to talk about what the next steps would be in the process.
That sounds really exciting. And I just think that with your students blogging, you've got wonderful artifacts to share that can really demonstrate their learning. And with this invitation to your principal, I'm wondering how you envision this maybe influencing your advocacy for these kinds of learning experiences.
Well, honestly, I never really thought about it as advocating for these kind of learning experiences, but I'm thinking that it might be a good idea to invite the principal into the classroom to participate in the learning. Um, he rarely comes in to see what is actually happening in the classroom, so I'm thinking that if I invite him in periodically, he might be able to get a better picture of what is happening and how the integration is occurring.
And I would love to be able to talk to you about it again, maybe in the next week or so, or after he's had a chance to come in and hear how he's seeing this kind of learning for your kids and how important it can be.
I would really like for that to happen. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.